You guys really seem to enjoy me covering some of the worst cards in Flesh and Blood last time, so I figured, hey, why not milk it for all it's worth? I mean, make a series out of it. While this game's card pool isn't unbelievably massive, some of the cards within it are unbelievably bad. So grab your popcorn and get ready to laugh at and/or enter a deep state of depression over some truly terrible trading cards. These are some of the worst cards in Flesh and Blood. Episode 2. Remember in the last video where I said, oh boy, dice rolling, I'm sure that's not going to come up again if I do another one of these videos. Well, oh boy, more dice rolling, but I'm sure this time it'll be good, right? Bad Beats is a 0-cost 3-block non-attack action from Everfest that reads, roll a 6-sided die. If the number rolled is a 4, 5, or 6, the next brute attack action card you play this turn gains +5. Okay, so I'll give this card one thing. Unlike Bonehead Barrier from the last video, this effect is at least proactive, which does fit the game plan of Brutes a lot better since, you know, they kind of want to throw damage rather than prevent it. However, there's a couple things here. First off is the fact that it's a non-attack action, meaning that when you draw and discard it at random, hitting this can ruin your entire turn. So, great. Before we even get into the effect itself, this is already a liability in any Brute deck. But let's say you get uber lucky and you never discard it at random. Okay, cool. So you take up a slot in your deck, a slot that can be filled with any other synergistic card or attack, just to get a 50-50 chance at giving your next brute attack action +5 power, and that's just for the red. See, normally when LSS develop commons and rares that come in all colors, they scale down the power from the red to the blue. For example, a red Wild Ride attacks for 6, the yellow for 5, and the blue for 4. So you'd think that Bad Beats does the same, where the red is a 50-50 shot at +5, the yellow is the same for +4, and the blue for +3, except no, instead, they scaled down the dice rolling. So I'll give +5, but the yellow needs to roll a 5 or a 6, and the blue is only a 6. So we're looking at a brute card that doesn't have attack, meaning it works against the main brute mechanic of discarding 6s, and it only gives you, at best, a 50% shot at getting a +5 power boost. And at its worst, it's 16.67%. Obviously, the randomness aspect of this card is the biggest part of what makes it this bad. I mean, sure, sometimes you'll roll high and get the buff, but you could equally get nothing, and you're essentially playing a 3-card hand at that point. But it's also the fact that this only gives a boost to brute attack actions. Like, I'm not saying it should hit generics, but why can't it pump weapons? I mean, listen, if I'm putting a whiff in my deck and taking a 50% chance to do literally nothing, this should at least power up something like a Romping Club or Mandible Claw. Why is it just brute attack actions? And considering we're now getting cards like Just a Nick, which is just a 0 for 5 with upsides, I think it's fair to say that Bad Beats is an embarrassment that doesn't deserve to see the light of play. Actually, isn't Bad Beats playable in KO Berserker Run? Oh shit, you know what? You're right. I'd completely forgotten that this card is semi-playable in the OG KO. You know, the gimmick hero that came out over 4 years ago and has achieved approximately dick all living Legends points in that time. So, my bad, guys. I guess Bad Beats is actually an underrated powerhouse. Whoops.
Hey Chris, do you remember when we made Sink Below in the very first set of the game? Welcome to Wraith?
Hi James. Yeah, I do remember Sink Below that we made in the very first set of the game.
And do you know how it's so powerful that even in the future, when we power creep the game with sets like Part the Mist Veil, it'll still be the best defense reaction?
Well yeah, wait, what's Part the Mist Veil?
I have an idea.
James, what's Part the Mist Veil?
Not now Chris. I have fair and balanced cards to make.
Rise Above is a defense reaction from Monarch that is pretty obviously a homage to the OG GOAT, especially considering the name and art on these cards. Unfortunately, the actual playability of them isn't even close, something that a few of you pointed out in the comments of my last video. While Sink Below is free to play and lets you filter your hand, Rise Above is a 2 for 4 with the upside that you could play it for free by putting a card from your hand back on top of the deck. This means that Rise Above goes from being a 2-card 4 to the amazing rate of a 2-card 4. Now I know what you're thinking. Actually, isn't this playable in a deck like Azalea? Because you could put an arrow from your hand on top of the deck and then use your ability to cheat it out and give it Dominate? I mean, sure, you can run Rise Above in Azalea if you'd like. I wouldn't recommend it, but considering Azalea is a pain in the ass, I ain't stopping you from making your deck worse. See, there are just a few issues with Rise Above. First is that in any deck that doesn't use the top of the deck, this is just a 2-card 4, which is absolute dog shit considering you could literally just run Sink Below or Fate Foreseen for a 1-card 4 instead. But even for a deck like Azalea, who can use the top of her deck, I mean, Why would you even want this anyways? Not only are there a ton of cards and even equipment that lets you manipulate the top of your deck, but Rise Above isn't even guaranteed to put an arrow you want on top, because in order to do that, you need that specific wanted arrow in your hand at the same time. What happens when you draw a handful of pumps in a Codex of Frailty? Are you gonna get rid of 2 cards in hand just to block 4 and then have a mediocre turn? And even if you have the arrow in hand, you can just, like put it into your arsenal and send it anyways. Like, is Dominate really worth 2 whole cards? Because keep in mind, if you're running Azalea's preferred weapon, Death Dealer, you have to have your arsenal already loaded to use Azalea's ability. If you play Rise Above from your arsenal, then try to load an arrow with Death Dealer, you'll just draw the card you put back on top before you can use Azalea's ability. So you have to play this terrible defense reaction from your hand while you have an arsenal to even make use of Azalea's ability by putting the card back on top. So not only do you have to hope to get both Rise Above and an arrow you want to give Dominate in hand, but then you also have to make sure that you've got an arsenal to use, and also hope that the last couple cards in hand are pumps and not other arrows, so you can actually make the Dominate worth it on the arrow you put back on top. This is just way too many hoops to jump through to just have like the most average Azalea turn. You could just run Fate Foreseen instead, and half the time you're just gonna opt a good card on top anyways. Seriously, Rise Above is one of the worst cards to play in any deck, and even in the best deck possible for its ability, it's just not worth the effort. Hell, the only other hero right now that cares about the top of the deck is Kano, and not only is Kano not real and he can't hurt me, but he's a combo deck. Do you think he's wasting his precious deck slots with some shitty ass defense reaction? No, he isn't. Rise Above is easily the worst D-React in the game, and even if LSS were to ban Fate Foreseen and Sink Below right now, there would still be absolutely no one running this card. Seriously, you would just be better off running Evasive Leap of all cards over this trash. Waterglow Lanterns is a set of illusionist commons from Dynasty. These are 0 cost, 2 block non-attack actions, and each one reveals the top card of the deck. If you reveal a card that matches the pitch color of the played Waterglow Lanterns, you get the mega grand prize of a single Spectral Shield token. No, I'm not joking. If you play this card, you're not only making your deck weaker by running a 2 block, but the benefit you get for doing so is maybe getting a Spectral Shield. Maybe. Now, looking at the illusionists we've had, the red Waterglow Lanterns are the worst of the 3 since Stromae uses ashes and dragons, not shields. As for the 2 prisms, well, there is a lot more Spectral Shield synergy with these decks, so you could play the yellow lanterns, I guess, but you could also run, I don't know, any other yellow like an Aura or Herald or literally anything that blocks 3. I mean, it's really only the OG Prism who can utilize shields the best with Luminars anyways, and her hero ability lets you pitch a yellow and make a shield. So even in the deck where the yellow Waterglow Lanterns would be best, it's unnecessary. But what about Enigma? She runs anywhere from 32 to 36 blues, and she uses Spectral Shields arguably even more than OG Prism. Plus, blue Waterglow Lanterns is a Transcend enabler, so surely this is playable in Enigma, right? No, Enigma does not want this card. See, the first reason that no one wants to play Waterglow Lanterns is it only blocks 2. Illusionists are a very frail class when it comes to armor, and they use the cards in hand as well as auras to help defend themselves. And so any 2 block that is put into a deck has to have a strong effect to justify it. And listen, I know what you're thinking. Actually, you just said Enigma runs 32 to 36 blues, she wants shields, and it's a Transcend enabler, so isn't the ability strong enough? Oh, you silly little commenter, no, it's not strong enough. Even if you're running the high end of 36 blues in an Enigma deck, that still means you have 24 cards that aren't. And let's not kid ourselves, if you play the blue Waterglow Lanterns, you know that you're just gonna hit something like a goddamn Phantasmaclasm off the top anyways, and you'll get nothing. You're better off running something like a This Round's on Me, Spears of Surreality, or Spectral Prowler as your Transcend enablers, since not only do they fill that role, but they also block 3. And again, in any illusionist deck, but especially Enigma with her ward auras, block is very important. The chance to maybe make a shield is not worth you losing a Mirror Guy because you couldn't block that last point of damage. I can't see anyone running any of the Waterglow Lanterns anytime soon. I could see Enigma playing the blue if it blocked 3, but as is, the chance to get just a single shield is just bad. Like, it's 1 shield and you're not even guaranteed to get it. Like, imagine spending an entire card in hand to do literally nothing. Oh, hey, it's the illusionist version of Bad Beats. Oh, but wait, I guess you could guarantee its effect if you use Rise Above to put a card with the same pitch color on top first. I mean, who doesn't love a 3-card 5? That's just pure value right there. God, these cards are depressing. There are several goals that developers might have when designing cards for new sets. Some cards are designed for limited gameplay, some for constructed, and some to help tell the story behind the game. And Morlock Hill falls into the last category, being the card that showcases the death of Minerva Themis, a friend and mentor of Dorinthia and Bolton. However, that's the only cool thing about this card because, oh boy, does it suck complete shit, as a couple of you pointed out in the last worst cards video. Morlock Hill is a majestic blue instant from Dusk Till Dawn that reads, the next time you would be dealt lethal damage this turn, you may banish Minerva Themis from your hand or arsenal to prevent that damage. Now, I'm willing to bet that some of you have never seen this card before, but Minerva Themis is the mentor that came out in the Bolton Blitz deck back with Monarch. Like all the other mentor cards, she can only be played with a young hero, meaning that she can only be played in Blitz. And considering Blitz isn't a real format, I guess that's that. Thank you for watching, and thank you to all the pages. Okay, fine, we will talk about this embarrassment of a card. All right, I mean, what's there to say? It's a blue instant, so I guess you can pitch it, but it doesn't block, so that's a huge downside. And the effect is also just not good. Like, it only works when you're facing lethal damage, and unlike Amulet of Intervention from the last list, it doesn't sit on the field or activate on its own. No, you have to play it and banish one specific card to activate it. Now, it does have the upside of being usable in hand or arsenal, but neither of those are what you would call good. If you put Morlock Hill in your arsenal, then you're stuck hoping to draw a Minerva Themis and be facing lethal damage that turn. Otherwise, Morlock Hill stays in arsenal, and you're stuck either blocking with Minerva or having a literal dead card in hand since you can't pitch it or, put it in your arsenal because the Morlock is still there. So, okay, Morlock Hill just stays in your hand and you put Minerva in arsenal, right? I mean, that's where her ability is used best after all. Oh wait, yeah, her ability. See, the mentors have this cool little ability that when you meet a requirement, they destroy themselves and grab you a specialization. Minerva buffs one-handed weapons and she gets a counter every time you hit with one. Once she gets to 3, she's immediately gone. So if your plan is to put her in arsenal and use Morlock Hill later on, I guess that means you just stop playing the game, because if you keep attacking, you might just lose your combo by doing so. Man, that's just awesome. Imagine putting a non-block instant that can only be used when you're very specifically facing lethal, and you either have to draw it with one very specific card, or you could potentially non-bow your combo by literally just playing the game and having Minerva leave by her own ability. I can't with this card. I can applaud the idea of using cards to tell part of the story rather than be designed for their effects, but like, why is this a majestic? You know what other majestic came in Dusk Till Dawn? Warmonger's Diplomacy. The $80 generic that every deck is forced to play thanks to Runeblades being super fair and balanced. Just imagine pulling a Morlock Hill instead of Warmongers. Oh wait, I don't have to imagine, because I did open up Morlock Hills, and yes, I am still mad about it. But if you thought we were done with Dusk Till Dawn, nah son. As one lovely commenter pointed out, DTD contains a pretty not so good weapon called Luminaris Celestial Fury. See, after OG Prism hit Living Legend, taking the OG Luminaris with her, it left a gap in all Illusionist players' hearts. And so when DTD got announced with the new Prism Awakener of Soul in it, we were so excited. Of course, there was no way they were going to print a weapon as fair and balanced as Luminaris again, but surely they were going to give us something decent, right? Luminaris Celestial Fury is a card that I wish I could scrub from my memory because I was one of the idiots trying to make this stupid thing work with New Prism back when they came out. It reads, once per turn instant, pay 2. Target angel attack or attack action card with Herald in its name gets Go Again. First up, paying 2 just for Go Again on an attack is absurd. For the angels, you have to either flip them on a previous turn and keep them around, or pay 2 to flip them, then pay 2 to attack, and then pay 2 to get Go Again. So yeah, I guess you can pay 6 and give up to 2 cards in Soul to draw 2 off Archangel of Erudition. Ooh, better hope that you draw another attack off all that, I guess. Would be a shame to draw an Arclight Sentinel and another Figment and be forced to just pass your turn after all that. As for your heralds, I mean, you gotta pay for them first, then you gotta pay for the Go Again, so that's 3 cards just to send 1 attack with Go Again. And don't forget, they have Phantasm, so if your opponent pops them, either your turn ends, or you use the Footsteps for the action point. And getting the action point from the Footsteps basically gives Go Again, so it makes Celestial Fury pretty much useless. But not only is its effect overcosted, it's also a once per turn for some reason. I remember when I was trying to make this work, I would sometimes line up turns where I could use a Herald of Erudition and the Archangel of Erudition on the same turn and have, a big combo play, but I just couldn't because the weapon can only be used once. Like, bro, I'm already paying 2 for the Go Again. Why are you limiting me to just once a turn? This weapon is so bad that after a while, people just dropped it in favor of running Iris of Reality. Yeah, Luminaris Celestial Fury is such an ass weapon that players players barely bothered with the Angels and Heralds and just went back to playing Spectre Auras, using the Angels as occasional 4 blocks. Honestly, the only place Celestial Fury would even possibly be playable in was Limited. Except Dusk Till Dawn was a supplemental set, it didn't even have Limited. So this weapon, it's just here, I guess. It's not doing much, but hey, you could get a cold foil at an armory. But hey, maybe you're not convinced yet. Maybe you're thinking, actually, they made this card when Tome of Divinity was still in the game, so surely you could use it for some crazy combo turns, right? Like, the weapon can't be that bad. Oh yeah? Well then explain to me why they made Luminaris Angel's Glow just 2 sets later. Luminaris Angel's Glow, also known as Lag, reads, if there is a yellow card in your pitch zone, the first attack action with Herald in its name you play each turn, and your first Angel attack each turn, get Go again. Excuse my French, but what the fuck? You're telling me that for half a year, I was over here paying 2 whole ass resources for my once per turn Go again, like an absolute chump, when we could have just had a real weapon the whole time? Like, the difference here is so astronomical, it's not even funny. Lag doesn't require you to pay into it, so cool, you don't need to give up 3 cards while attacking with 1 Herald, and it gives Go again to a Herald and Angel. So like, why is Celestial Fury a once per turn? You're telling me that we can get 2 instances of Go again for free, but oh no guys, having to pay 4 for the same thing is just a bit too powerful. It might break the game. Never mind the fact that we had full-powered Lexi running around with Voltaire and Codex of Frailty when Dusk Till Dawn released. No. It was the new Prism that needed to be handicapped so brutally. Luminaris Celestial Fury is a disgrace on an otherwise perfect hero who has never done anything wrong ever. Thankfully, we didn't have to suffer with it for too long, but I really do think the fact that LSS released a weapon that is like 10 times as powerful really highlights just how bad this Luminaris is. But even crazier than that is that this Luminaris isn't even the worst weapon to be released in Dusk Till Dawn. But that's gonna have to be for another video. If you enjoyed this one, give it a like and tell me what awful cards you want to see in the next worst cards ever video. I really liked being able to use some of your suggestions, so if you want a shot at showing up in the next worst cards video, make sure you give me a real stinker to cover. But with that said, thank you for watching, and if you really want to support me and these videos, consider joining my Patreon. There's a good handful of perks, including watching videos a day earlier than the public, and if you join the highest tier, you can join the ranks of the Giga Chads and get your own hero card. And speaking of them, thank you to the Giga Chad Saint, Geeks First, Elixir, Vinny, Smokeopotamus, John, Ty, James, Chemical, Bryant, Transient Fire, Dark Memoria, Big Hungry, and Wolf Shadowmancer. Then we got the Alpha Chads Thomas, Zajima, and Aaron, and finally there's the Super Chads Thal, Cece, Eric, Ben, and Yogbadoodles21. Thanks again as always, and stay Chadly, my friends.